Thanks, Morgan, for joining us to the Business Corner today.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about glitter, how you started it, what it is.
So it originally started as this just kind of gut reaction to the litter on the streets of Philadelphia. I just couldn't take it anymore. Born and raised, had been looking at it my whole life, wondering, why is it here? When is it going to go away?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I had to ask the question, what am I going to do about it? I had been the president of my civic association for a couple of years, and we would organize like these volunteer cleanups once a month or so, clean up a couple blocks. And I can't tell you how frustrating it was to put in so much energy to organize volunteers to clean up a little tiny section of the city only to see it get dirty a week later. And having built a company that was all about efficiency and effectiveness around nonprofits and like doing good in the world and helping track outcomes with my first company, MilkCrate, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can use MilkCrate tech to somehow motivate, engage, and track people doing this work in a more efficient, scalable way. That was like the light bulb moment of like taking my work life and my volunteer life and trying to connect them. And so I approached some city council members that I'd gotten to know and some that I didn't. And eventually also the streets department at the city. And for almost 2 years, worked really collaboratively with them to design something. You know, I came to the table like, here's my idea, iterated on it, got their feedback, you know, tiptoed around union concerns, made sure we didn't step on any toes, things like that. And they agreed and they were like, okay. And they put it in the budget. And I was like, oh my God.
Now, this was 2 years ago?
This was like 4 years ago that I started that,
Good.
4.5. 2 years ago, it got put in the budget. And I was like, oh my God, city government works. A concerned citizen with experience came to the table with a proposal. We worked together. We came up with a plan. They funded it. We're going to implement it. It's going to be amazing. And then the streets commissioner said, you know what? We don't want to fund an unproven startup. And I was like, then what were we doing here for the last 2 years? Like, you just wasted our time, got our hopes up. Like, what? Why? Why?
Right.
And it's not like what you're doing is exactly working.
So what did you do?
So I got mad, and I got sad, and then I moved on.
Okay.
And then I got a call from then Councilman Green. He was like, whatever happened to that litter thing we were doing? And I was like, ugh, yeah, that was a good idea. And then the pandemic hit. And my social media feeds were clogged with people just raging about how dirty the city had gotten. And it's not like we were in a good place before, but it got really bad, as you know. And when I'd originally came up with this idea, it was 100% only supposed to be city tax dollars paying for this, because you would think, you know, they've been working on this street sweeping program forever that's supposed to clean up our streets, that's not scaling, not working.
Outdated technology.
Right. So I was like, originally we were supposed to be like, how about let's try this instead with those same dollars that you're not putting out there. It never occurred to me that people would be willing to pay on top of their taxes to solve this problem. But as entrepreneurs, we know if the pain point hurts enough, people will pay to make it go away. And so when I saw the pain, I was like, maybe they'll pay. I can't have come this far. The problem's still there. This is unacceptable. I'll try. And so in April of 2021, I started working on we were on vacation. I came up with this new brand. I'd been playing these word games in the New York Times like app about where you rearrange letters to make new words. And I had been thinking about litter a lot and added the G and suddenly glitter. So we go from something gross and disgusting to something fun and sparkly and upbeat. That was kind of the idea.
Shine right out of the trash.
Yeah, exactly. So that was where the name came from. That was the kind of time period of pivoting to this new model. And I basically put together this really simple website, got some press, and was basically saying to people, sign up. I was going to use Splitwise. I think that was what what I was originally using was just Splitwise, where neighbors would, you know, this is the cost, put your name in, and then when you get enough neighbors to split it, that'll be how it works. And then I held a protest, a demonstration in front of the Municipal Services Building, basically like yelling at the streets department, and we dumped all this litter that we had collected on the streets and dumped it on the front steps of the municipal services building on a very hot August day.
Oh, wow.
And
how long did it take them to clean it up?
I mean, we bagged it up.
Okay, good. Okay.
I'm not a jerk. I mean, like, it was like civil protest. It wasn't vandalism.
I got you.
No, we bagged up the litter, something that they don't know how to do. And so we were there, and the press was there, and I see out of the corner of my eye this guy with this like professional litter grabber and this buzz cut and this kind of serious look on his face, and I'm like, I want to meet that guy. Mm-hmm. And we had coffee, and it turns out he was like taking a, as he puts it, professional sabbatical, and he'd spent his like pandemic cleaning up litter in Rittenhouse where he was living. Wow. His name is Brandon. Mm-hmm. He is now the CEO of Glitter.
I love that.
And so right when I was launching things, I was also in the final stages of accepting a role as an executive director of this amazing nonprofit called Life Science Cares. Mm-hmm. So I'm still in that role. So right as I was accepting that role, we were launching the startup that I'd been working on for years. And I told the board when they were hiring me, I'm like, I have this thing. Think of it like a hobby. Right. I'm going to have someone help me with it. So Glitter is not my full-time role. It's Brandon's, but we work very closely together on it. Most days we're talking about it and kind of building the vision. But yeah, my day job is building this nonprofit affiliate in Philly that's funding nonprofits tackling poverty in the city and partnering with life science companies to invest time, talent, and treasure into those nonprofits, and then hiring first-generation college students into life science companies.
Well, I love that. I think, one, you've identified a problem, and I think that's when business owners and entrepreneurs really start to kick into high gear. Learning about the different partnerships that's available with the city, but then learning that the opportunity really comes from the people living in that
ground
city.
Up, yeah.
So I was actually very impressed when I heard about Glitter. And I think, most of the folks that was just your advocates about it, they were like, I've actually found out on social. So I was probably one of those people that was just like watching social media, looking at the feeds, and then seeing some of the social influencers talking about it. It was very exciting. I was just like, okay, what's this new thing? First, I actually thought it was a program that was a part of the city. And then, right. But I even think that's another part of like just leadership, right? So, you have, former Councilman Green, like, didn't we vote on this? Didn't we support it? What happened to it? Even the follow-up led to more conversations, more problem solving. Yeah. So tell me about the next goals, right? Yeah. So now people are on board. They know about it. They're signing up. What are the next 3 to 5 years of Glitter?
Definitely. So today, what we are doing, and then I'll get to where we want to go. So right now, we are cleaning almost 300 blocks a week.
Great.
Fully funded by neighbors and businesses who mostly live on those blocks or operate on those blocks. Typically, it's one neighbor hears about it from another neighbor. It's all been word of mouth. We've done no paid marketing. We don't have anyone working on marketing. Like, it's literally me and Brandon and then our amazing 15 cleaners, and that's it. Like, the cleaners are the people who people stop on the street and ask about it, and they'll hear about it. They'll go to our website, sign up for a crowdfunding page, share it with their neighbors. We send them materials. And then they're off and running, whether they pledge $20 and then they recruit some more neighbors to eventually get it funded, or sometimes one wealthy person will cover it all in the beginning and then get other people to start getting on board. So we're doing almost 300 blocks, 15 neighbors all across the city. You can go on shareglitter.com, click on map, and you'll see the blocks all over. It's like publicly available. You can see all of them. You can click on each crowdfunding page. But what's coming up, couple of things. One is we want to expand our services. So we're talking with other companies that provide neighborhood improving services. Our goal at Glitter is to not just be a litter cleaning company. Our goal is to help empower neighbors to solve neighborhood problems. Okay. Problem one is litter, but there are plenty of other neighborhood problems that we can crowdfund and crowdsource solutions for. So block-wide composting, pothole repair, street lighting, benches at a bus stop, beautification with plants and trees, all of these things that like a properly operating city can and should do. We're going to the neighbors and saying, listen, we know it sucks. Yeah. We wish it wasn't like this either. You're already paying taxes, but if you've got an extra $20, $50. Here are some other things that we could do for you that you can hold us accountable for. And if you're not happy with the results, you can fire us.
Yeah, at any time. You don't have to wait
everyone
another
down
4
the street.
years.
Yeah. God, I wish I could fire some people in that building.
Well, one, I love that. And I think, those type of, because it's interesting, you talked about the potholes. I didn't even know the city actually had a grant opportunity. So if you get a pothole, in the middle of Center City, if you fill out a form, you can get a reimbursement. You look shocked. There's actually a program for that. And
I did not know about that.
Yeah, so the more we know, right? The more we could get less
inefficient.
potholes.
Why am I fronting the money? I should just be able to call 311 and you come fill it.
Well, that's a whole other
less
story.
Than 5 years later.
That's a whole other story. But getting back to the why glitter was established, right?
That is so maddening.
And the leadership and the business opportunity that comes around it. I think that's, one, inspiring. Two, it helps us all think consciously. Like, again, what I've learned being in business is if people, yes, we can get the handouts, right? The city can pay for it. Great. Appreciate it. But if people are actually now seeing that, I'm paying $20, $50 every month, I'm looking for real results, right? Versus just paying taxes once a year.
There are customers and they will leave if we don't. And I'll toot our own horn. They don't leave. If they move, maybe, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, we are knocking it out of the park, and I am so proud of that people are thrilled with the results, and that we actually earn their trust and their commitment and their money and their it's been amazing. That has been really gratifying to see that happen. And something else I forgot to mention in terms of what we're doing, the people that we're hiring, they have barriers to work. We are prioritizing people with barriers to work and paying them a living wage of $20 an hour on average to do this work. So people who are formerly incarcerated, single parents, retirees, students.
Anybody with hands and feet, you can get in the game.
Yeah, we're really looking for people who have had a hard time and are enthusiastic about helping their neighborhood and paying them a living wage to do it.
So what do you think has made the difference in your success for this business to grow?
Well, I mean, after the first business where I had to raise a lot of capital in order to build the tech, I really didn't want to have to go through that again. I wanted to be able to validate the idea without having to raise money and build something. And what was really cool about this was I was able to just say, hey, do you want this? And that was it. And then based on the yeses, we were able to start to build something. We haven't raised a single dollar of investor money. It's been all bootstrapped. We are running on revenue. Now, Brandon and I both had a situation where we had other income where we were able to offset that, and not everyone has that. So I recognize the privilege in that, but we didn't have to go and raise hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to test out this idea. We were able to do it in our spare time and kind of validate it until we got to a point where we could bring him on full time and put him on salary.
Okay.
So that's been a big difference. But I think you said this kind of ground up support, this company is being built by people who are contributing to, the neighborhood that they want to live in. That energy of people opting into a solution, and then the cleaners seeing that the effect that has on the neighbors and the enthusiasm they have for it. Our cleaners, we are here seeing on our Slack channel, I'm seeing all day long their enthusiasm for the work that they do. Good. We're not just a cleaning company.
I was about to say, it's almost like you create a community.
It really,
inside of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I've been literally having fun with this podcast. I've been talking to so many folks, and when you went back, and I'm going to go back a little bit because you were talking about the beautification of neighborhoods, but I literally just had the Madam Register of Wills talking about generational wealth. And part of that is it's in the real estate. So, glitter is playing a huge role in people understanding that, well, my property value is either going to increase or decrease depending on the school system, how it looks, right? How the community is, gun violence, right? So all these factors play a tribute. And I think as you are talking about, your background, even in social change, and it's people like you. I'm just like, please don't run for public office yet. I need you exactly where you need to be, right? Which is those problem solving ideas. Don't do it, because I feel like you get restricted, when you go that angle. But those type of ideas where you're like, hey, we're just gonna take glitter and now we're gonna expand it. Now we're thinking about trees, and we're thinking about the potholes, the things that irritate us in society, right? We were already dealing with the pandemic, right? And essentially, when we talk about great guests that we have on the Business Corner, it's about that social impact and making it, work for everyone around you, right? How do we make it look like one of the biggest, brightest cities, not the poorest, but the biggest and brightest? So I love that. Yeah. So I want you to give me some advice you would give someone else who's looking to follow in your footsteps and creating something that is a social change or impact. Like you told me, you started this because, one, you have a background in this, and but you also saw there was a need.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give others who would want to go walk down this path with you?
Well, one of the things I say a lot, which isn't always what people want to hear, is don't start your own thing.
I've heard that.
Like, I can't tell you the number of times I've been like, actually, that already exists. Mm-hmm. Or you don't have the life experience or professional experiences to do that well yet. Mm-hmm. Like, just because you see a problem and you care about it doesn't mean you should go register a 501c3 and try and raise money from all your friends and family to pay you a salary to figure out how to tackle a problem that 100 other organizations are already trying to tackle. Mm-hmm. So step one is like, make sure you're the right person for the job, or maybe something a little more gentle is like, align your skills and experiences with how you can best be of service to that problem. Mm-hmm. So depending on where you are in your career and what you've been able to accomplish and what you've learned and your resources, like figure out where you can fit into maybe an existing thing. So I worked for years in the nonprofit sector. I then built a company that basically went through 3 different iterations of itself. So I had to learn a lot of things along the way to be able to get to a point where, after observing what was and wasn't working in the city, to then be able to design glitter. And even then it changed. Brandon came on board and he was like, hey, why are we making people wait until they've got $200 to fully fund it for weekly cleaning? If they've got $50, let's do 1 cleaning a month. And I was like, oh, brilliant. Mm-hmm. Like, why would we hold back service?
Exactly.
So like these changes that have come up over time, not just from me, but from others, like you're never going to get it right the first time, especially if you haven't tried to work in the field and learned the problems, seen what's already been out there, what's been tried, before you can come up with your own solution. People will be like, oh, this is brilliant. You just like had a brilliant idea one day. And I'm like, that is not at all what happened. I spent years learning and failing and connecting and trying, and eventually came up with something that seems to be actually like a really good idea, but it wasn't just a good idea. It was a lifetime of learning and trying and failing.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Morgan, so much for joining me on the Business Corner.
Thank you so much.